Hey everybody. Good evening. It's almost midnight here in Indianapolis, and I don't know if I should be doing this right now because probably in about 4 hours I'm going to end up waking back up because I just can't quite seem to acclimate as one would expect. But you know what? We just finished our first day here at Gencon, and I thought it might be kind of fun to do a quick wrap up of what I saw and played. Because unlike Essen, where I almost played nothing the entire time, I thought I'd take a different tack this time and literally try to play as many games as possible and tell you about them instead of spending a lot of time trying to film just a very few little things. I'll try to play a lot of stuff and tell you what I felt about them. So let's see. Let's talk about what I've played so far. First game I played was Tasty Mitchell Games' Bomb Squad, which is excellent. Oh my gosh, that was an awesome start to the show. If you don't know the game, it is a real-time cooperative game where all the players are working on a bomb squad team trying to race against the clock to disarm bombs and rescue hostages. But they don't do it themselves. What we're all doing is trying to program a bomb defusal robot who, if we do our jobs right, will travel through the house, make it past obstacles and deal with all the problems before time runs out. And now the cool thing is the way this game works is, I'm going to assume you know the basics of how Hanabi plays. That's the card game where you have a hand of cards and you cannot see what your cards are. And you have to rely on everybody else to give you very cryptic clues to figure out what's in your hand so you can know how to play smartly. So Bomb Squad very unabashedly, very openly borrows this mechanism, but brings it into real time. So I might be, I talked to the designer a bit about how does this work? I mean, what is the thematic justification for it? And he described it like, okay, you and me, we're on the team. And I'm the sniper, and I've got eyes on, but I can't quite see everything that's happening in the room, because I've only can see in through a tiny window. And you might be, the person who has bugged the place, and so you can't see anything, but you can hear stuff. And somebody else might be using like the heat, the infrared to be able to see through walls, but they can't quite make out what's going on. So basically, all of us as players have an incomplete picture of what is happening inside. And for us to really function as a team and get a full idea of what needs to be done, we have to piece together what we know. And that is represented symbolically through the Hanabi gameplay. And because, I don't know what it is I'm seeing. I don't have the full picture, but if you can give me clues, then that can help me, and I just think that's brilliant, because if there's one complaint I have about Hanabi, which is an awesome game, is that the theme really makes no sense in that game where you're trying to make firework displays and there's just no good reason for the mechanisms to exist. So it's kind of an abstract game. Here, while it's still kind of abstract, they really have come up with a good justification for the system. And then on top of that, it's just a very, very cool real-time cooperative game. Very tense. The Tasty Mitchell Games is working on a timer app that you can use with dramatic music, or you can just go on ahead and play the old-fashioned way. No mandatory apps here. And loved it. Had a great time. Cannot wait to, I think I'm going to be able to get a prototype of it and take it back to Malta and film it up for you proper playing with Jen. So that should be really, really awesome, because I'm really looking forward to playing it as a 2-player game too, because I only played it with the full player count. So that was the first game. That was Bomb Squad. Let's see. And then what was the next one? Right. Greed from Queen Games, and designer Donald X. Vaccarino, the designer of Dominion and many other games, Kingdom Builder and a whole bunch. So I'll be honest, I sat down not really expecting much, thinking, well, I don't know if this is going to be a game for us, because the theme of this game is kind of set in the 50s, or 60s, 50s or 60s, and players are all kind of crime lords. And the game itself is a card drafting game, like Seven Wonders or Notre Dame. It's interesting. Like pretty much all Donald X Vaccarino games, the buzzword is variability. Every time you play this game, you're going to get a radically different landscape to play in. So you can play over and over again. And now the way the game works, the game comes with a big thick deck of cards that represent different thugs you can hire and properties that you can invest in and actions you can take. And I don't know how many cards there were. There were a bunch. But at the beginning of the game, each player, if I recall correctly, gets 12 cards. And then that's it. Those are all the cards that are in the game. So there's going to be a lot of cards you aren't going to see. And then you take those cards, and I take one and set it aside. You take one and set it aside, and then we hand the remainder over to the other player. And then we do it again. I take one set aside, you take one set aside, hand it over to the player again. And now the third time you do this, after you take one aside and set aside, you'll now have 3 cards you set aside, and at this point you will play one of them, but again, we keep doing this back and forth until all but one of the cards have been played through. One card won't get played, and at the end of the game, we basically tally up scores. Now it sounds really simple, but the combinations between these cards, just absolutely amazing. So much going on, so many interesting decisions, and at least in a 2-player game, so many opportunities for, so many tough choices about, am I going to try to build to the combo I'm building? Because, you very quickly see all the cards that are there as they keep on shifting back and forth, and that, I've got this card that will give me a lot of points for property, but oh my gosh, in this particular game, there's only like 3 property cards, and I can't play them yet. So I have to get this other guy that'll give me the resources I need to buy this property. But if my opponent takes before I do, I'll never get the chance to play this, to use this other card that will benefit me for having a lot of property. And it's just so tense and so exciting. I was really gobsmacked. I expected it was going to be an okay or a good game. Really great game. Agreed. Liked it a lot. Bit iffy on the subject matter. It'll be interesting to see how Jen feels about it. But the gameplay itself, amazing. Okay. Continuing on. Next up, I played, Anton Bauza's new game, Samurai Spirits, I think, from Funforge. And this is a cooperative game, that basically takes its notch from the Seven Samurai, or the Magnificent Seven for that matter, because we are playing cooperatively up to 7 players, and each one of us is a samurai trying to save this little village of farmers from invaders. And there's one deck of cards, and on a player's turn, most of the time you're going to draw the top invader card. And you will either choose to fight it or defend against it. Now, you only can defend against a few enemy cards before that opportunity is lost. But defending is the most powerful thing you can do, because it ties up the bad guy, and they basically can do no damage to anybody. You take them completely offline. But you only get a couple chances to do that. So what you'll do more often is you'll fight. And, depending on what hero you have, you might have 8 hit points or 10 hit points or who knows how much. And every time you decide to fight an invader, you'll lose that many hit points. And you will set them up so that on your next turn, they'll do some kind of damaging thing, like, making a strike against the town or giving you a wound and various things. And so what's happening is, every time you make this choice about, am I going to defend against this, and you only get a few chances to do that. You don't get very many opportunities to. So you want to save those for the really damaging bad guys. But that means you instead have to just take it on the chin and take damage over and over and over again and put yourself in a lot of danger. But here's the interesting thing. Say I have 8 hit points. If I can take exactly say I have 9 hit points total. If I can take exactly 8 points of damage, so I'm basically just one step away from dying. So I'm right on the hairy edge. I unlock my special power out of desperation, and I get to make cool special moves. And in the game we played, there were interesting opportunities to combo, change. And then the other thing is, on my turn, instead of choosing to fight an invader, I could say to heck with it. And I'm instead going to support one of my teammates, because everybody has a special support power that normally you use for yourself. And there are things like shuffle cards around and protect yourself in a pinch, and peek at other cards and stuff like that. But if we look around the table, and on my turn, before I decide to fight a bad guy, before I decide to draw a bad guy card, if I look around the table and see, oh my gosh, you're about to die, that's going to be a real problem if you go offline. Tell you what, I am going to donate my power to you by supporting you. And then that means when it gets around to them, hopefully, if we were smart, I gave him the right power and it'll keep him alive. But here's the downside. Since I was focusing on him, I wasn't focusing on the invaders, and one of the invaders sneaks through and gets into the town. And so that's your basic choice. Are you going to help each other and let the invaders come in, and the invaders will just ravage the town? Or are you going to stop the invaders and take damage yourself and get yourself into a situation where you need somebody else to support you? So it's a cool idea. This whole kind of, there's a push your luck element too, because you're trying to take just the right amount of damage. Too little and, well, things just stay the way they are. Too much and you die. But if you take just the right amount, it can, spell the difference between disaster and not. Oh, and then one other thing. If you take wounds, which is different than damage, as soon as you get 2 wounds, you upgrade into your animal form, Fist of Monkey style, Samurai Warrior. That basically significantly increases your power. So you actually want to take wounds, but if you take too many wounds, you'll die completely, and the game will be over. So there's interesting stuff. I didn't necessarily. The people I played with were very nice, but I think we were a little bit in the dark, because the booth was really busy, so we didn't get maybe as much time as it would have been nice. So it's kind of hard to make a final decision. I like the ideas of the game, but one, I'm left wondering how it'll play 2 players, because I played it 6 out of 7 players, and we just didn't get as good a feeling as we could. But it was a nice group of guys. The game certainly played very quick and fast and light, so it was interesting. But for me, the jury is still out. I'd really want to be able to go in knowing how to play and knowing what the ramifications of our decisions are, because we were figuring it out as we went. Last up, I played 2 games with designer Phil DeBerry, who I met, and he's a lovely, wonderful guy, and very, very nice guy. First off, we played one of the games I was really excited about. I was on my top 10 preview Gencon list. Spirits of the Rice Paddy, I believe so. Spirits of the Rice Paddy, which is coming soon from Ape Games. I think it'll be going on Kickstarter pretty soon. And now this is a game about farming, and I'm not quite sure where. Some Far East location. I don't know if it was China or Thailand or something like that. We didn't actually talk about that very much, but it is about raising rice paddies. And at the end of the game, whoever has literally raised the most rice wins the game. Now in this game, rice also counts as money, so you're trying to save all your rice for points, but you also need to spend your rice to hire more laborers to work your farm, and also more livestock, because you need them. You need oxen to clear the rocks out of your fields so that you can actually plant and harvest and all that stuff. And you need ducks, which is the other type of livestock, which is awesome. I know Jen's going to absolutely love this. The ducks serve 2 purposes. If you get pest infestations, bugs and whatnot, you can use the ducks to gobble them up and clear it out so you can have the best yield. And you can also use the ducks to create manure, which apparently, this is all true. This is how they actually do this rice paddy farming. And, you can see videos of it on YouTube, like these swarms of ducks that just eat up all the bugs and just fertilize the land. So the ducks in the auction are very, very cool. But the core twist of this game is you're over the course of several rounds expanding your plantable area. and creating more and more rice paddies. And every turn there will be the waters will rise and fall, basically. First of all, the waters can go away, and when it does, because if you picture an Asian rice paddy, you generally picture the rice is submerged, and when the people are working, or walking around in, I don't know, ankle deep water or something like that, and when the fields are flooded, you can't work it. So you have to let the water recede, and then that lets you harvest and fertilize and stuff like that. And every turn, the first thing that happens is you'll draw a card to find out what the rains are going to be and how much water is going to come back. And whoever's the first player, and I'll come back to that in a second, whoever's the first player gets first dibs on the water that's coming back. And what happens is, as you're designing your rice paddies, you're designing the way that the water will flow from one paddy to the next, and and how it will fill up your space. And you're trying to be smart to ensure that as much water as possible will fill your fields, because any water that doesn't fill your fields goes downhill to the next player's fields. And so there's this really interesting symbiosis of, I'm trying to make a plan to ensure that my crops will grow, but I need water to do it. But will I be able to get the water? I'm not sure, because I don't know exactly how my opponent is going to deploy their workers and how much water they're going to gobble up and how much will be left over for me. Now, what determines who's the first player is the other half of this game. This is the second card drafting game of the day that I played. Everybody drafts to get a hand of the spirit cards, invoking the ancient Asian spirits of the land and whatnot. And these cards all give you an ability, very, very powerful abilities. And once the ability's in place, it stays for the rest of the game. They're awesome, super powerful cards. But also, when you play the card, it has an initiative number. And the lower number is the player who's going to get to go first. And so, obviously, the more powerful the card, the higher the number. Therefore, you can't go first. Therefore, you might get all the water taken away. Very interesting game. I had a blast. I really enjoyed playing with Phil. We played it as a 2-player game. I know Jen is going to adore this game. Very interesting, very thinky. Great stuff. By the way, I don't know if you can tell, my throat is ravaged raw. And I'm very tired. But anyway, and so then the last game I played today was also, again, with Phil. Yeah, he showed me a early prototype for, what is it? It is called Skyway Robbery, from, I think it's going to be Game Salute. And they'll be doing a Kickstarter in a couple of months. This is a very cool game. First of all, I think Phil's on a bit of a card draft, because it also features a card draft. Wait, did it? Oh, I'm starting to lose my mind now. Oh, yeah, it did. But it was just like a really quickie one. Spirits of the Rice Paddy card draft has huge implications throughout the whole game, whereas the card draft was over very quickly in the Skyway. It wasn't a big deal in Skyway. So this is a game where Ocean's 11 meets steampunk, because what you're doing in this game is trying to assemble the best crew of kind of adventuresome rogues galleries who all have special powers, equip them with really awesome abilities, and then pull off big elaborate heists like George Clooney and Brad Pitt in Ocean's 11, getting past all the elaborate security measures and trying to stay one step ahead of the cops. It was a very clever game and incredibly thematic. Now, I gotta say, I'm not the biggest steampunk fan in the world. I never really get a sense of connection with it. I don't really ever get kind of drawn in, but I really found myself drawn into this game. I think it's because of the Ocean's 11 thing, because what I'm doing feels very contemporary, but the setting is very fantastical, and that's a really nice juxtaposition. And the game is really cool too, because you spend an equal amount of time preparing for all these heists that come up. And this is a race game, because each player has the opportunity to go for the same heist, and the first person who pulls it off gets the reward. So you're trying as fast as you can to build the right crew to pull it off. But as much time as you spend planning and preparing, then you actually have the heist itself, and you have to equip the right stuff to the right people, and the cops can come around unless unless you go in super quiet. There's a cop die that could cause your crew to get arrested. But that just means, they go to the clink, and in the same way that you could pull off a heist by breaking into an elaborate safe, you could break into the jail and bust your teammates out too. It's really, really nice. Enjoyed it a lot. Played a full game. I kicked Phil's butt. Totally. Well, not completely, but I don't know. I don't know if he was going easy on me, because I really did very well in Spirits Rice Patties, but these games were both excellent. And if you've seen my, I talked a bit about this in Fidelitas, another game from Phil, who worked on with Jason Katarski. I played several of Phil's games, and I've never really gotten the impression that he puts a lot of time and effort into the two-player aspect. It always seems kind of a little bit tacked on. Not so here. In this game, these games played great two-player. I enjoyed them a lot, and I can't wait to play them with Jen. So anyway, folks, that's it. I am trashed. I gotta go get a throat lozenge now because I can barely breathe. But let me know what you think. This is kind of a different way than what I did Essen. Just a quick update. You can of course go on Board Game Geek and see pictures of all this stuff. But I think it's kind of nice to actually play the game and be able to give you my real opinion, as opposed to what I did at Essen, where I just basically kind of went through a canned preview. Although, you're not seeing it, you're just having to rely on my descriptions of it. But like I said, just thought I'd give something else a try. Let me know what you think, and if all goes well, I'll bring you another one of these tomorrow night with some more information about a few new cool games. And otherwise, have a very nice day. Talk to you later if my voice doesn't break. So long. Bye-bye.